Isère, France, June 2021. Witness Notes 21. After you have read these introductory paragraphs once, you can skip to the new, old content here. If you are listening, then the timestamp is around the 2-minute 45-second mark. Introduction. The word settled to me carries connotations I am keen to avoid. I have never felt settled, or perhaps I cannot recall a time I felt settled. I do not feel settled now, writing this, and I've lived in the same house for 3.5 years. Without even discussing the obvious issues of colonisation, I just don't feel like I could or should settle. Better to keep my constituent parts shook up, agitated perhaps, rather than separating stagnant. Instead, I feel as though I have been travelling for years, maybe because I have not lived in my home nation of Scotland for 8.5 years. Perhaps because I know I won't stay here forever, or maybe because I carry that concept of home in a way which differs from many. More precisely, I still think of myself as a slow traveller, globally feral. Recently, I have been revisiting places through the photographs and words I recorded when my feet crossed their soil. This is a way of reminding myself of where I have been, not just in space and time, but in mind too. It is a wonderful thing to come out of below and rediscover myself through words I crafted, through the lens of a camera, where memory has wandered in the fog for too long. Thank you, past me. When I first started sharing letters with the world in this fashion, 6 or more years ago, I usually began them with a vignette of where I was, a sort of travel diary mixed with nature observation, locking in the setting for the reader before I spoke of other things, and by so doing, ensuring that place fed into the whole. It was a useful device for a reader and myself both, but as these letters were sent to so few readers, and now languish archived behind a paywall, I thought it a shame not to share these snippets again. As such, I am going to share a short series of these sketches accompanied by a photograph from that time, sent to you in date order, beginning with the second eldest. I shall include the above paragraphs in each of the letters in this series, but I shall also include a link at the very start so you can skip ahead once you are familiar with the above words. If you are listening and similarly want to skip, then the timestamp you want to navigate to will be in the same place. Taken without these paragraphs, each is a short read, and I hope you enjoy them. Isère, France, June 2021. Everything is wet. Everything is fresh and green, new and spring-like until, almost overnight, summer arrives, and she arrives with the subtlety of someone snatching you off the street, fully clothed, and throwing you into a sauna. The mountain greening is complete, the summer bleaching coming. The valley in which Grenoble and Écherol sits holds the heat and maintains the humidity. The pollution builds here in summer nowhere near as much as it did in Chiang Mai, but it is noticeable. Mountains are hidden, disappearing behind greying air, the blue leaching from the sky day by day, only to suddenly reappear cleaned and fresh after a thunderstorm, as though someone has restored the painting. The air is close and full of energy. It is no wonder people leave the city for the coast or the mountains in summer. We shall be doing both. Outside the window, the black cap has started to sing once more, joined by the never-ceasing serin. Great tit, blackbird, sparrow, and collared dove. Sometimes there are others, such as a black kite I witnessed almost crashing to the ground, mobbed by crows, twirling and dropping to escape. We have been visited by a kestrel, a sparrowhawk, a buzzard, and my current favourite, the crested tit, punk-like, carrying considerable attitude in a tiny frame. The scent of roses and peonies rises to my floor, my side of the house cooler than the others in the morning. The air still relatively fresh. I cannot wait for the scent of the mountainside in the morning, or the taste of salt on my lips once more, the wind from the Mediterranean, almost ever present, reminding me of home, whatever that means. Each day, each month, season and year creates a new tale of its own. There are always similarities with the previous chapters, but as time moves on, so does the story. Those robins nest in a different place, meaning their previous location is now available for the blackbird. That cherry tree is damaged by a late cold snap, encouraged to sleep longer, opening tentative leaves in the middle of June, long after the other two. This means the birds on the feeder are far easier to see. COVID means the shrubs and plants have been allowed to grow longer, wilder, more bushy along the pathways. This gives the birds and other animals more food, more shelter, more room to nest and nurture. Every day a different story, every year different. Now look at your own location and time and consider the variables. A vast and incomprehensible web begins to appear, with one strand leading to another, one branch taking it in an entirely different direction. Too often we forget this. Stories of scale are difficult to comprehend, how one action on another side of the world has a direct effect in your own back garden. We can only control tiny portions of this story, so much is out of our hands, yet it is this very act of accepting we are unable to write the whole which means the tale itself can flourish. Fill the bird feeders, leave out water on hot days or every day. Let a patch of your garden grow wild, pick up that litter, choose plastic-free alternatives. There are other actions we can take, each certainly worthwhile, but perhaps most of all we need to share the differences in our stories with one another and rejoice in them. We need to show that by acting individually we can absolutely change things, but by working together we can set the world itself on a different, better path. That's why we tell the tales, but communication is key. Communication is telling stories, of course it is, but it is also learning when to be quiet and simply listen. Nature has much to share. Everybody has a starring role in their life. Everybody is the lead character, supported by a wide and varied cast, some family, some friends, the occasional rival or enemy. We all have an opportunity to choose our direction if we wish to, although it is disingenuous to not mention that it is considerably easier for certain groups than others. Our stories are all important, every moment of every life, how they interact and weave together, how one person can turn the direction of their life and those around them in but a single heartbeat. Too often it is the voices of despair and misery which are loudest. This is simply human nature. We as a species love a good disaster or opportunity to be glad it is not us suffering. However, as the distances between our cultures and nations shrink, as our ability to travel anywhere on Earth within a span of time measurable in hours grows, then it is the natural boundaries which begin to be tested. For the first time in our collective history, we can hear the stories of others if we want to, and crucially and critically, if we do not. This means we can no longer ignore those tales, those lives as we once could. True, there are those who do not care, those who go out of their way to denounce difference and reject cooperation, and they can shout and rail and scream as much as they like, but it no longer really matters. Change is coming, big change. There is no escaping that. The balance is shifting. Our stories swirl together more and more, threads tangling and pulling in new directions, and do not believe it will definitely end in a dystopian hellscape. There is a chance a protopia beckons, why not? We as a species can dream big. We all need to pay attention. We all need to realize we can make a difference, because all of our stories matter. Let's keep talking to each other, and let's keep listening. Finally, if you can afford to, there are currently 2 direct ways to support my work here. The first is to take out a paid subscription. The second way to support me here is to use my Ko-fi button link to send a tip of any amount. If you enjoyed this letter and wish to share it with others, please do so. I love it when someone shares my work. I also love it when you comment on a piece. Really, really love it. Thank you. Finally, many thanks for reading. I truly appreciate each and every one of you who does.